the internet is an essential part of life in the 21st century. Can't get around it. Can't get around without it.
Okay, Kamala Harris launching a new task force to combat and prevent online abuse and bullying. That's what she says. But the New York Post calls Harris Big Sister 2 after Nina Jankowicz asked to clear up how Harris's new online policy task force is different from President Biden's Ministry of Truth. The White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre can't really say.
In charge of so I would need to talk to her team. I was not on the background call, so that specific language that you're providing to me, I would just have to check in with her. I would also encourage you to check as well with her team.
Does she have answers to anything? No, of course not. Well, let's welcome in now former Trump 2016 foreign policy advisor and Newsmax contributor George Papadopoulos. George, great to see you.
Thanks a lot for having me, John.
I think we should be vigilant here, but not worried, because if Kamala Harris is as successful doing this, being Big Sister 2, as she has been with her role as border czar, nothing's going to change.
Well, as soon as I read that they were trying to create this disinformation board too, a quote from the famous Yogi Berra came to mind, and that is, "It's deja vu all over again." And look, this is a clearly desperate move by a very desperate administration, and the American public along both spectrums of the aisle overwhelmingly denounced and rejected the formation of the first disinformation board, because not only was it an affront to the First Amendment and clearly un-American, but I also think that the American public is beginning to understand that it is indeed the Biden administration which is the purveyor of disinformation. I mean, the old head, Nina was basically propagating the Russia collusion hoax, and entities like this, John, that are straight out of the dystopian future that Orwell once predicted, have absolutely no place whatsoever in American society. Fortunately, with a little pushback, the first disinformation task force collapsed, and I believe Kamala Harris, as you mentioned, not only was she not effective as a border czar, she also couldn't prevent Putin from invading Ukraine, and I don't think she's going to be effective in curtailing the First Amendment.
I forgot about that job she had too, preventing the invasion of Ukraine. Obviously, that didn't work out well. She didn't do very well when she was running for president. So, yeah, accomplishments. Don't worry about that type of stuff if you're Kamala Harris, apparently. Let's talk a little bit more about big tech. Elon Musk held his first meeting yesterday with Twitter employees where he said all lives matter. Can you imagine, George, just the gasp that must have been heard on that call when Elon Musk had the gall to say all lives matter? Huh.
Well, look, if the Twitter employees are, gasping for air on a very, what actually should be a really unifying statement, especially from somebody like Elon Musk, who really is becoming a lot more politically involved in making not only his money, felt, but also his voice, including endorsing candidates and making specific announcements of who he's voted. It really showcases the culture of Twitter and where it was before Elon Musk decided that he was going to hopefully overtake the reins of this very important public space that today is operating as a sort of appendage of the Democrat Party and censoring very prominent conservative voices. So I wasn't surprised to see that. Clearly, there has to be a cleanup that has to take place in Twitter, and Elon Musk is clearly the right guy at the right time to do it.
Now, let's talk about what's happening on some of the other interwebs, namely Truth social media. There's a new member, a new participant on Truth. His name is Governor Gavin Newsom. He joined that social media platform. Former Congressman and current Truth boss Devin Nunes. Welcome to California, Governor. I think this is a good move, George. We shouldn't be afraid to have guys like Gavin Newsom in the platform. And I imagine he's going to get a lot of good pushback to whatever he says.
John, if democracy is going to be faster, better, and more agile, then you're absolutely correct that we need voices along both sides of the aisle, prevalent and prominent on all of these tech platforms, including Truth Social, Twitter, and others, because because today these social media conglomerates are essentially the public square of the 21st century. If we're going to be censoring individuals because we don't like what they have to say, then we have absolutely no right. Then we de facto have censored our Bill of Rights in this country and the Constitution and everything that makes America what America is today. So I'm, as for one, a key advocate of having opposing viewpoints on all of these social media platforms. I do know that Governor Newsom's first truth, if you want to call it that, was trying to debunk, I should say, a lot of the conservative viewpoints on gun violence and violence in Democrat-run cities. But God bless him, and hopefully he continues to have a strong voice on Truth Social.
I, too, had a little trouble getting that out of my mouth. Tweet's a little different than a truth. The truth implies that it's actually accurate. And he seems to want to blame Republicans for a lot of the violence. And we all know, George, that it's really a problem. Two main cities in California, specifically Los Angeles and San Francisco. And again, that's thanks to those George Soros-backed prosecutors.
That's absolutely correct, John. And actually, we are witnessing before our very eyes recently recalls from some of these progressive Soros-backed DAs, including out of San Francisco just recently, because of the havoc that has run amok in these cities, including San Francisco, Los Angeles, others throughout the country. And I think even in some of these liberal heartlands across the country, crime is becoming as important.
It's a basic issue, George. Crime is one of those basic issues. You got to get it right. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever. People want to feel safe in their own communities, and it's not happening now. And I think Gavin Newsom might be a little defensive about those things. George, great to see you as always. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks so much, Sean.